Cool. All right, let's get started. People are still coming in, but that's totally fine. We'll just yeah, get this show on the road. So thank you very much for coming. It's lovely to kind of hang out with you all. Hopefully today is a really useful exercise. I want it to be super practical. I've had a few chances lately to go and kind of share with different groups about what's possible. And we will do a little bit of demoing because it's fun. But what I really wanted you to do today was to be able to go away with like a start, because sometimes getting going with this is the most challenging piece. So let's jump in. As you know, am Tim Jeffries. I work with my wife Jay, and we run an agency called Smooth Ops Consulting. We help people build out their digital operating systems. We've been hanging out and using Notion for a very long time, and we love it. We've got 4 kids. This is all of us at Fraser Island recently, being crazy on the beach, and that's just to show you that we're real humans. Yeah, so we spend our days working with a bunch of you, but lots of businesses who are growing, who are trying to organize themselves, and uh, we help them build kind of structured, organized workspaces to do that. And we've been doing that for a long time. And the introduction of AI has amplified the good work we've been doing for a long time. All of a sudden, I feel like the work that we've done for people is a whole lot more valuable because all of a sudden they can use that data, AI can understand it, and that's what we're going to kind of push into today. So I guess a theme through this will be if you haven't already organized your information inside Notion, your results may vary. If you have done the hard work of really thinking through, you know, this is how our information's structured, then the AI will love you and you'll get a lot better results. So we are going to cover just very quickly the high level of what's possible with Notion AI. There was a little question on the registration form to say like how much of this, have you thought about or looked at? And I had the full scope from people who do consulting like me, people who work at Notion, all the way through to I don't even know what you're talking about. So we'll try and kind of hit in the middle somewhere. Yeah, but the key thing today is practical outcomes. That build your personalized instruction piece, that's hopefully where we're going to spend most of our time. And I would really encourage you to have your Notion open and that template duplicated and ready to go because we're going to like work through it together, each of the steps. And yeah, I want you to leave with your Notion agent set up, ready to go, ready to experiment. And then the last thing we'll do, and hopefully we'll have a good bit of time for this, but we'll see, is I want to introduce you to AI Playbooks, which is something I kind of invented as a means to solving a problem that I'll explain as we go through. But it's basically how I've worked out how can we take these, you know, instances of an AI in Notion and give them complex things to do and help them getting work to do work for us. Anyway, we'll get there. I just wanted to start out with just a couple of comments about sort of the mindset and the shift that we probably need to take. Because one of the things that I've found myself doing is a lot of unlearning. There's ways that we've all been using technology for a long time that don't really make sense anymore in the age of AI. And so this I have been chatting to the Notion team and am fortunate enough sometimes to get to talk to the people who build these things. And I showed him all this stuff that I'm going to show you today. And I said, is this sort of what you were thinking? And he said, oh, this is like definitely pushing the boundaries of what we imagined. But, this second comment is the most important one is that like the Notion team have set out to build a foundation for us to build upon, which we know, right? Because that's what we do in the rest of our Notion workspaces. But that is as true with AI as it is with all of the rest of the cool things that we play with inside of Notion. And so it's not that we're just going to get AI and then it's sort of suddenly going to work perfectly for us. We're going to have to do what we've done with our Notion workspaces, right? And really kind of understand it and think it through and build it into the way that we work. And that's our opportunity is that we get to yeah, we get to build on top of that foundation. So yeah, it's not like other software that comes with like, here's the feature set, these are the things it can do, the end, learn all those and you're the master. Like this does not work like that. Even the people who built it don't fully grasp what it's capable of, which in some parts are scary and some parts are super exciting. But it means that for all of us, we need to sort of tackle this with a curious, adventurous mindset. You know, we are explorers, we are experimenting. It will kind of not work and it'll be broken and all those things. That's part of the fun. And the cool thing is that you've got this companion that you do that with all the time. You go on that journey with. You're not alone in trying to solve these things. If you've been kind of a bit nerdy for a while, you'll be used to trying to go into Reddit and, down some rabbit warren to find the answer to something. Those days are kind of over because you have this, person who can do some of that research or person that can do some of that research for you. And that is as true with Notion AI as it is with anything else, and maybe even more so because of how it's built. And yeah, and just to reiterate again, the setup of your workspace is more important than ever. One of the big things, I think, as we've seen over AI in the time that we've all been playing with it, is early days we were all very worried about prompting. We were thinking, how can I get like the correct phrasing so that I'm gonna, almost like trick this thing into giving me exactly what I need. And so it was all about the magic words. Now, I think one of the things I've come to understand is that the context that the AI has, the information that it has, how well it understands you and everything, all the knowledge that's related to what you're trying to do, that is the most important thing. You can get away with a crappy prompt if it has enough context to understand you. And the beauty of Notion, and I don't know if they realized they were doing this at the time, but like the fact that we've all been pouring our worlds into it, structuring our information in there, and now they've just come along and layered a really amazing integration of AI straight on the top, means suddenly those of us who are in this situation, we've got this leg up that almost no one else has. Because everyone else is trying to cobble together systems, to pull their information into ChatGPT or Claude or any of those things. And now we've got this implementation that sits on the top. So anyway, enough waxing. But I think those are really key. Okay. The the launch, a few weeks ago, of Notion 3.0 was really this, we've seen this evolution from a wiki to databases and then now to agentic AI. And so what that means in practice, I'm not going to go through this in too much detail, but the AI, that we're going to sort of refer to as agent, can do multiple step things. So it's not like its predecessor, which was sort of a poor cousin of ChatGPT, the original Notion AI. I wanted to love it, but it didn't quite do anything like this one can. This one can take multiple steps and go away and work on things for us. It can build anything. For most of us, it can build better in Notion than we can, which is kind of amazing. It can write formulas, it can build databases, it can do all that sort of stuff. It has the ability to search and understand all of the content of your workspace. And most importantly, with that, it has the ability to understand the relations of your databases. So if you are someone that I've worked with or have spent time building out Notion workspaces, then you know that you might have a projects database and then you've got meetings related to it, or you've got a campaign and you've got finance items related to it. The AI will understand, oh, we're talking about this campaign, all the related items, they all are relevant context in here, and you'll see me demonstrate that. We can personalize it, which is a thing that we're really going to focus on today, so that it's not just the generic vanilla version of agent, which is nice, but not customized to you. And so we're going to, work through how we can personalize it and get the most out of it. Very soon, around the corner are custom agents that will be able to do things while you're not even thinking about it. At the moment, you still have to prompt it to say, hey, go and do this thing for me. Soon, you'll be able to set up so that an automation happens in a database and it, triggers something, and it does things in the background. If you haven't played with the meeting notes yet, you're missing out, especially because the context of a transcript is super, super rich. And so I don't even bother looking at the meeting summaries anymore. I just ask the AI to understand the transcript because it's a much more in-depth version of the context. Research mode isn't actually new, but is a whole lot better. And you can ask Notion AI to go and do deep research about issues. And then there are still AI blocks and AI properties. I think all of that you probably have heard, and if you haven't, you're welcome. Some sort of nuance around that. I've found that there's 5 different ways that you can engage with Notion AI in the workspace. So there is the left-hand sidebar here. which is like a full screen implementation where you can really dive in and have the conversation. You can still give it context, but you're not working with a page, like you are when we do it in the right-hand sidebar. In- Interestingly, and importantly, this uses your personalized instructions. So I think that's actually quite a recent change because when I was prepping, I was like, oh, it doesn't. And then I came in here and realized, oh, it does. Um, so this will use the instructions that you're going to write today. Um, then you can access it on the right-hand side. So, and this is where I spend a lot of my life these days, chatting with my friend here. And so they both use the personalized instructions. So that's two. The other three, one is inline like this, and you can say ask AI. Now, if you ask AI if this version is using the personalized instructions, it will tell you yes, but I have experienced that not to be true. So I think it's on the way, but not there yet. And this is definitely going to be a bit of a moving target. But you'll see here, old Nosy, he doesn't have the mustache of my normal guy, so that's a bit of a giveaway. So that's three, and then four and five are AI blocks. So you can have these blocks here that if you haven't played with these, they're super powerful because you can sort of set them up in templates. And I just worked with a great agency that does a whole lot of like content creation and copy creation, and they've built these blocks that reference prompts that use all their context of their meeting notes and documents and whatever and generate a whole bunch of the sort of first draft of things for them. It's very impressive what you can do with those. And then the other ones are the database properties that haven't actually changed very much in the latest implementation, but you can have a prompt in a database property that uses the page content as context. Okay. So one of the most important things, other than the personalized instructions, is giving context to the AI. And so I just wanted to draw your attention to a couple of the elements here because they're super important and also in a way that you might not expect. When you go to ChatGPT or the other tools, a lot of the time you don't have a huge amount of control over the context, or I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't feel like we've often sort of stopped and thought, hang on a second, I don't want the AI to think about anything else other than just this page that we're working on here. I don't want it to pull stuff off the web. I don't want it to grab it from other places. I only want it to think about this info here. Don't look at my memories, don't look at, any of that stuff. And so you can do that here. You can say, look, this only use just this page. Or just the information that I give you, only the context that's given. So you can turn your sources on and off. One thing we haven't talked about, but that Notion has a whole bunch of AI connectors, so you can point it at Gmail or Google Drive or Outlook now and SharePoint and all those kinds of things for it to pull more context in. Um, so yeah, you can determine the sources. You can mention things in the workspace, and by default, on the right-hand side, Nosy here will use your main page. So that's all good. You can upload documents, and what I'm noticing is that a lot of the documents that you can upload, the team's working really hard in the background to give us access to new formats. So things like CSVs don't quite work yet, but they're not far away. I think we'll see that grow. So yeah, you can mention things, you can upload things, and you can select your sources. And again, if your data is structured and connected, then it will be quite intelligent about that. All right, that's enough of the big overview. Let's get into the fun stuff. Any questions that I've missed or anything anyone wants to ask about sort of just the functions that are available? Cool. And has everyone got the worksheet? Nice. All right. Well, so let me introduce you to Al, who Jay and I call him Al because when AI first came out, we were we were wondering who's this Al guy everybody's talking about in the news. And a couple of years ago, it just suddenly popped up everywhere. And so ever since, it's been a case of, oh yeah, it's not AI, it's Al, and it looks a lot like Al. Sorry, Stephen, you got your hand raised there, mate. What's up?
Hey Tim, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you, man. Been a while. Hey, thanks for running this. Super excited. And just a question about the integration with like Slack. Can you paint a picture of just kind of what, that's I know that's like massive if you're running a
Yeah.
company off Slack, and there's a lot of data being input there. So like, what would the function kind of be there, and how would that look like?
Yeah. It's a good question, and I'm learning a lot about it as we go because so what it means is that certain data in the Slack workspace is available to Notion, and it honors your permissions, so it doesn't give you access to say everything in the company Slack, only what you can see. I think there's some limitations around whether they're public channels or private channels or DMs, but you'll find when you are just chatting with Nosy in the sidebar here and you ask it a question, Slack, Google Drive, all of those connectors will be options that it searches through that it's looking for. So if you've got, I mean, Gmail is for me personally been the most powerful one because all of a sudden, you know, the dumpster fire that is my email inbox is accessible to the AI in a pretty powerful way. So I'll ask it a question and it will just look through those as sources. So that's the main thing. My concern or like challenge question as especially as I'm trying to build things for people is the information that it's looking at is not structured or it's structured in its own way. It's not conforming to say like the world that you've built in Notion. So when you know, I don't know, ask it a question about a lawyer that I'm working with, like, does it have to literally try and go through every single email and work it out? Is it just matching for, whereas in my workspace, it'll be very clear everything that relates to that client. So I think I said before, your mileage may vary with unstructured data as opposed to structured. And I think, yeah, a Google Drive is a sea of documents with only maybe folders as the way of structuring it up, whereas a Notion workspace with nicely organized and related databases is different. So yeah, we'll see. But lots of fun to play with there. All right, let me introduce you to Al. So when I first showed someone this, they said, "Oh, did you write all that?" I didn't write all this. I hung out with Al for a long time and we went back and forth, and we've kind of honed these instructions. And my constant question to him is, are these the instructions you need to do the best job for me? And then as we are working together, I'm forever saying, why did you do that? I thought we put in the instructions that you're not to do that. And then we hone them and we hone them. And so you really should be taking that perspective as well. This is not a template that you pull off the shelf and it just works perfectly for you. It will change. As the models underneath change, it will change. Maybe even as Notion tweaks things, it will change. So it's more like a relationship than you might imagine. And you really do kind of get a sense of, oh, this is how they work. And these are the things that I need to do. So let me just high level go through these sections. And then what we're going to do is have a look in your template and give you a chance to think about each of these sections for yourself. Because as I've worked with it over the last few months, these have been the key areas that I've needed to give it guidance to be able to get the results that I'm looking for. So just to start with, there's this top level sort of introduction thing here, but the key info really starts at the priority hierarchy. And one of the challenges is that you can give it conflicting instructions and then it gets really paralyzed and doesn't know what to do. That seems fair enough to me. So if you can say this is the hierarchy of all the instructions you might get, think about it this way. It's great. It follows the instructions really nicely. So this is pretty simple. I'm just saying don't break anything. And then what I ask you is at the top of the priority list, that trumps everything else. And then I have these playbooks that you'll see. Then we've got this document, the base operating system, operating principles, and then we've got the memories at the bottom. And so if anything conflicts, this is the priority order that you use it in. This is a bit boring, but to be honest, makes a massive difference because it just doesn't get confused and know what to do. And a lot of the time when I've said, why did you do that? It said, oh, you gave me two sets of conflicting instructions and I couldn't work out which one to do, so I guessed, which is fair enough. It's so much like having a young admin assistant start with you. It really is. Okay, cool. So there's those, then there's operating principles, and we'll have a look at maybe some of these in a bit more detail, but I like to think of these as kind of they sort of define the character, the kind of creature that this thing is. And so I've got seven, and I think at one point I had 12, and I asked it, is that too many? And it was like, yeah. And they're redundant. You're saying the same thing multiple times, and so we kind of rehashed them a bit. But these are really worth thinking about because how you want it to work with you gets defined here. It's more than the personality, it's the whole kind of style of the thing. And so you can see I've got this call out at the top because that structures it in such a way as when the AI parses this page, it really takes notice of that. And so this actually just reinforces something that's written further down. But my pet hate is when the AI just keeps asking if it can do more things after it's done what I've asked it to. Drives me insane. I'm too busy for it to try and direct me as well as everybody else. So, I put this in big bold and now it never does. But yeah, I've got things like act explicitly on the request, but if anything's not clear, follow it up with me, which stops it guessing. It's like if I'm not sure exactly what to do, then I have to ask. Don't, yeah, let the scope creep. Use a data map, which I'll show you a bit further down, which has been really helpful. Keep everything concise and or try and fill out all of the data. You might have noticed one of the things I really care about is making sure that the structured data is all there and useful. And so this helps. I getting it to chunk work because I don't know what your experience has been, but it would often like run off on a million things and it would have a list of 10 questions for me. I'm like, I can't answer 10 questions at once. Maybe you can. And so, yeah, I just say like, just chunk it down into smaller pieces. I'm experimenting with this, but I'm trying to get it to automatically capture memory. So as we work together across many, many different chats, I want it to automatically say, oh, that seems like an important thing. Should I put that in memory? And you'll see there's a memory section further down. It seems to be working. And then this last one I found super useful, which is like, you're not just an order taker. I want you to think, I want you to share perspectives. If I suggest something and it's a stupid idea, I want you to tell me. And so I don't like it as much since I put that one in. We're not as friendly, but it's better. It calls me out on things, which is great. So I hope you can sort of see that the point of the operating principles, they're those really high level things and they'll change, I'm sure. Watch a TikTok of some AI guru and get another idea and chuck the little extra principle in there and see if it works for me. And, you kind of play with it. Next, there's a personality and a voice. So yeah, that's really more like the kind of style, what you want it to be like. I like mine to be kind of friendly. I don't like it when it's too mean. Uh, yeah, but little bits of funny, whatever's useful to you here. And I think the big thing for me is I want it to be like a helpful teammate, someone I can just kind of rely on and go back and forth with. And then we've got rules. So these are similar to those operating principles, but they're hard rules. They're very direct, precise, never ever do this. And so you'll see I've got weird things in here like I like only having one data source in a database. So when it goes and builds databases, I've told it you're never ever allowed to put multiple data sources in the one thing. This is where you can get very precise. I'm like, always use my time zone. Every time you make a change to yourself, I want you to log it in this spot, etc. So you can be really particular about the rules. I've got a section for when it's taking actions and when it's content formatting. Um, yeah, so we'll have a look at more of this in detail. This escalation and safety section is quite useful just for, things like our websites in Notion. And one day the AI decided it was going to just, you know, try and make some edits, improve things for me. I'm like, what are you doing? Never touch that. So anyway, I put rules in there. Um, the data map, this has been, I think, one of the most powerful things I've done in the instructions, and that is to give the AI very, very specific direction about where to find things and where to put things. So I don't know if you've thought about your workspace quite to this point, but we have. And so now I'm like, if I just mention a project, I mean, it's LLM, right? So if I talk about something that sounds like a project, it now knows, okay, projects live here. That's the first spot I'll go and look. Tasks, client engagements, meetings, all the things that we use. And so the AI is very sort of clever now. It's had its orientation. It knows where stuff is. It goes looking in the right spot, and then it offers to put things in the right spot. When I say, "Oh, can you just take a note of that in the middle of something else?" It'll say, "Yep, I've just put it here," and it's most of the time right. Playbooks. So this is the bit I'm really hoping that we'll get to have a look at together because these are your ability to really go and get it do work for you. All the rest of this stuff on this page is very much like, how do I get this thing to work well with me? And I'll be back and forth with it. And so it's not too annoying and really useful. These are, I've got a job for you. Go and do this thing. So we'll come back to that, but I've got a bunch of them and I just keep building more because they're really useful. And then I've got this memory section. So it's down the bottom. It's probably the least useful thing like to the AI on this page. But I'm trying to work out how can I give it context about who I am and what I'm doing that will help it be smarter about when it's suggesting things to me. One of the interesting conversations I had with it the other day was I said, "Oh, I feel like maybe there should be more stuff about who I am and how I like to work in here." And it said, "That's nice, but I need rules. I need you to do the heavy lifting of turning your personality and preferences into concrete examples. So don't say be efficient, say respond in 2 lines or less." And that's been really useful because I've looked at a lot of people's kind of prompts and personality and these kinds of instructions, and there's a lot of fluff in there that the AI just doesn't care about. It can't use, because it would have to guess what that means and what that means to you, and someone else might be totally different. So you need to kind of do the work of bringing it all the way down. And then the last thing in here is the change log. So these are like all the changes that have been made to this instruction. And I just think this is probably not a bad idea to be asking the AI to take note of what it does over a period of time, especially once custom agents come into play. For us to, for it to say, oh yeah, I did this and then I did that, that could be quite useful. So yeah. All right. That's my version. Let's make yours. Hopefully everybody is here on this page. Are you there? Are you familiar with this? Cool. All right. So what I've done here, a little bit of Notion trickery. I've put together a page that has each of the sections in it for the structure, and then in so there's an example section so you can see what we just looked at in my one if you want to cheat. And then there's a my draft section where you can draft your bit, and this is using a synced block. So when you scroll to the very bottom of the page, you will have your AI instructions, and as you fill out that top section, it'll fill out this for you. So in the end, you can just point your AI at this page and we'll be away. One thing I forgot to do that is very important is your actual AI itself. To get it to use the instructions, you need to use this personalized feature. So you click on the face, and then you'll get this, and you'll get a bunch of fun ways to make it pretty. And then you can point it at your instructions. So in your case, after today or even straight away, you can say use existing page and then find, search for this page that we're making, point it at that, and then it will load those instructions. So if you know a little bit about how these work, they load their kind of base operating system instructions first, and then they load others. Yours will be a kind of a key thing that it brings in. So you must do that, otherwise it won't work. But you can always ask it and say, "Hey, are you using which instructions are you using? Where are you getting this from?" And it will say, "Oh, everything I'm, looking at is on this page." All right. So, sorry, I missed some things in the chat. I'll come back to it in a sec because I'm going to give you some time to work on this just briefly. Um, let's maybe starting with the priority hierarchy might not make too much sense yet, but I think the operating principles are kind of the most fun and interesting for you guys to think about straight away. So these are the core rules about how the AI is going to work. They're often sort of if-then type statements, like if this happens, do this. So you should think about it like that. They really define what the behavior is. So don't say be helpful, say like it's saying here, when the request specifies what, where, and how, then do it. Otherwise, ask me. Be really specific like that. And yeah, you only want, you know, 5 to 7 of them. Uh, so do you want to have a go? And we won't get to do everything in this call, but I think maybe giving you a chance to start to try and map some of this out for yourself might provoke some questions or some ideas. Feel free to drop things in the chat. And while you're doing that, I might try and answer some of these questions. Does that sound all right? Cool. Oh yeah, I'll start at the bottom. Yeah, good question, Nick. So I did, and I saw you and some other people talking about that. And so what I've done, which we are going to have a look at, is sort of sort of that, but kind of the reverse. I've created this instructions page, which is like the base personality and rules, and then it calls these playbooks. So we'll have a look in more detail, but I've got, I guess, the equivalent of those different AI personalities um, embedded in these playbooks, which is like, okay, Al, now we're going to go and do a meeting follow up, or we're going to create some content, or I want you to catch me up about where this client's at, and we'll have a look in a tick. But when you dig into those, it's very specific. And so it's interesting, when you look at what it does, because it knows its base instructions, and then it says, oh, he's asking me to call the client catch up, and it goes and loads those instructions, run those, and then it's done, and then we just go back into whatever's next. So similar but different. Let me just go back. Do you have much experience with the Notion MCPs? Not heaps, Dan. I've played a little bit with it, using, yeah, I've done it from the other end using Claude Code. But actually, Nick, who's in here, might be able to answer your questions on MCPs. I was hoping, I think mostly because the clients I work with often are busy running their businesses and not playing around with things like MCPs. I wanted to see if we could do it all from the Notion end and it would be really accessible to people. And that's what I've been finding here is conceptually there's a few things to understand, but then you just do it all in natural language. And so you don't have to be that nerdy to be able to make the most of this. Yeah, good call. Yeah, there is a great example of in the keynote. That's good. Sometimes I get it to save chats, Nick. Yeah. So, but usually just with a prompt at the end to say, this was a great conversation. Can you dump it all in a page here for me? And it does that. Or snippets of conversations when I'm halfway through and I think, oh, I really don't want to forget that. I'm like, can you take, those ideas and put them in my inbox for me and I'll come to them later. I think that's really useful. Oh, JM, did you get the guide? I hope you did at this point.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Cheers.
We just copy these things into a Notion page on in our own database.
So you should be able to, on that link, hit duplicate and it'll give you a whole copy like this one
Okay.
I'm on here. And then
Mhm.
as you go in here, so that you don't have to copy them back out again, they're in synced blocks. So your AI instructions here, this page will have all of your instructions that you're writing further up. So just trying to make it helpful was Jay's idea actually, so that you could see the example and the instructions and do your work at the same time. If you really don't like that, there is below that just a blank vanilla version that you can just write straight in. Depends if you like looking at the answers or not.
All right, it's just not letting me type into it. Okay.
Have we duplicated it? So, oh gosh, if we go forward slash, you should see up here this little duplicate button. And when you click that, it should pop up and say, where do you want to put this? And then you'll get your own copy of it. And
Yeah,
then you'll
sure.
be able to, yeah, that's the way to do it. How are we going? Any questions, issues? Is it hard? What do you reckon? Yes, it's synced to the original, meaning it's synced to the page down the bottom. So you should find that as you write in there, it fills out the bottom page. If it's really not working for you, that's why I made that other just straight vanilla one. You can just write straight into there.
Tim, a question from me, mate. I've seen some examples of some AI instructions that almost build multiple agents of this model and sort of hand off projects between the different agents.
Mhm.
Have you sort of dabbled with that level of complexity at all? And are you seeing any variation between like normal Claude ChatGPT execution inside Notion versus outside Notion?
couple of things in there. I've dealt with how can I have agents that are good at different things piece by these playbooks, which we'll have a
Yep.
look at in a minute. So
Yep.
there's like, I want you to be able to do this, I want you to be able to do that. So instead of trying to jam all the complexity into the one set of instructions, or
Mm,
instead of having to shift and say, oh, I want to be a different agent now, which understandably, because it's brand new, is a bit clunky in the tool at the moment.
yep.
You don't have to change which agent you are. You can just say, load this different set of instructions.
Yep.
So we'll jump into that in a tick. I have seen pretty significant difference between which model you're using. Nick
Yep.
might be able to speak to this too. Yeah, so here you can choose whether it gets to choose for you, or you use Claude or GPT-5. And in here, you've got even more options. You can use Gemini as well. Uh, you can see mine is set up to use Claude at the moment because I don't know why, but ChatGPT 5 hates me. And so it stops halfway and it's doing annoying things. And maybe it's just the kind of work I'm doing. Um, but yeah, so my experience has been I don't get better results by going to ChatGPT. I'm still paying for my ChatGPT subscription, but I don't use it except to have a long conversation with the voice chat. But otherwise, everything else I'm doing, I'm just doing inside of Notion, and particularly because of the context. Like it's all
Yeah.
my whole life is in here, and
Yeah.
so it's suddenly just super super powerful.
Are you managing to get external outputs that are not Notion outputs from the model? Because that's probably the one big difference that I've
Yeah.
noticed between ChatGPT. So if I want I need an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV output, I don't seem to be able to get that out of the Notion version
Yeah.
of the models. Because obviously, Notion is not a spreadsheet.
No, no, that's right. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think I've tried to ask it to.
Okay.
I don't know if it can spin you up a doc or a
Yeah, I can't get
spreadsheet.
it to spin up a doc. Like as an example, if I
Yep.
want to spin a letter up, I can
Yep.
get it to build a Notion version of that,
Yep.
but
Yep.
that's not formatted how someone would read a letter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Sure.
then you've almost got to get it to pop it out in
Yeah.
coded format for me to be able to copy and paste. I'm like, hold
Copy and paste.
on.
Yep.
The
Yep.
same prompt
Totally.
inside ChatGPT, which is why I was asking with the MCPs, because in theory you should be able to
Yep.
build one one set of instructions and then MCP it back to your
Correct.
instance inside Claude or inside ChatGPT. And now it doesn't matter where I'm interfacing, I'm talking to
Mm.
the same agent. But I haven't been
Yep.
able to work out how to do them. I've spent no time trying to look at it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it doesn't
No,
seem to
interesting.
be an easy thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I haven't tried it, but I mean, it makes sense to me that certainly at this early stage it wouldn't be able to do that. I'll follow up with the team and ask if there's sort of the intention to be able to do that. Shows you how much I use docs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool. All right, how are other people going? Should we have a look at these playbooks, or we want to I really wanted to make sure that people had like a good chance to work through these instructions and just make sense of them. So we might spend a few more minutes here, even just looking at each section and just making sure people feel confident that they understand what that's for. Would that be useful? Cool.
Hey
Thanks,
Tim,
Mia,
quick
for my
question.
litmus test. Yeah.
I may just be completely off here, but basically I'm just putting in the text from your example into my draft that I've put onto my
Hmm.
own private template. And
Yep.
am I right that we're just doing that for now and then we're getting it all up and running?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
That's it. Yep. I mean, I wouldn't just copy my text. I would put like your own ideas into here.
Okay.
But even
Okay.
if you end up with something that looks a lot like mine to start with, you'll
Okay.
then have something, you'll
Okay,
have
cool.
a version to work with, and then you'll be able to say, I don't love how it does that, you know.
Sure.
Um, yeah. The whole interplay between like you and the agent and editing its instructions, it's a bit meta. It's a bit weird, right? Because you are asking it to change the way it operates. But once you get kind of in the flow of that, you find, oh, you can just all day, every day make it slightly better. Um, and yeah, we'll explain why it does things to you, in a certain way. All right, so we've sort of covered off the principles, I think. The personality and the voice, I think this is pretty straightforward. Like for me, I just knew that I didn't want it to be distracting, but I didn't want it to be too dry. And so one of the things I found is just a little bit of self-awareness about how you work, what you need. So bit of sharing too much here, but like if someone is encouraging me, I'm just going to take bigger risks. I'm going to choose to do more. It's just a part of like how I'm wired, whether I like it or not. And so I have always like just tried to set the agent to say like just pump up my tires just a little bit, be affirming about these things. Don't lead me down the garden path, but and so I found I tweaked the personality and voice that way. Then I find it easier to work with. Then I get better results. And then I just kind of reflect on that periodically. So you should find those personality and voice things kind of interesting because it's about how its personality matches with yours and what kind of working arrangement you enjoy. And I have actually found it helpful to think about people that I've worked with really well and what their personality is like and how they operate and try and encourage the AI to sort of behave in those ways. Because I know that for me, it's a very personal thing. You spend half your life once you're using this all the time talking to it. Just having a look at Ava's one. I added an evidence-based priority, asked it how it should word it. Evidence first. Okay, that's great. Yeah, so asking it how you should word it is really worthwhile. It's a great tip, and I have found that um, I've often needed to remind the AI that it's writing it for itself, not for me, because it's always trying to keep me happy and please me. And so it puts these things in. So for a long time, we had all these examples in here. And then I said, do you read the examples? Like the examples useful to you? And it said, no, I don't need examples. They don't help me. They only help me if I can't work out what your instructions mean. And then I try and decipher from the examples. What I need you to do is be really, really clear in the rules. The examples are for you. And so I pulled the examples and nothing changed. So interesting to go back and forth and do that. Yeah, talk to it like the third grader. It's good, Nick. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, what's the best way to talk to my Notion agent using voice on my PC? I am using something called Super Whisper. It pops up like that, and then I rab it on like this, and Jay, who usually sits over there, turns around and thinks I'm talking to her, and it's really quite a pain. And then I hit spacebar, and then it puts the text, and then it pops the text indirectly. So I mean, this is not Notion AI, but I have found this to be a super powerful thing to do because I can obviously speak a lot faster than I can type, and we can have this kind of flow of conversation where I speak and it types and I speak and it types, and we can go really fast and it's more natural. Um, and it saves my wrists and shoulders from typing all day. So yeah, there's a few whisper flows good. Yep. Cool.
Tim,
All right. Yeah.
it's me, Greg. How you going?
Hello, mate. Good.
So can I be a bit of a chump here? Because for me, this is like really new, and like everyone, I
Sure.
feel like everyone's like university graduate, and I'm like not even walking yet.
No,
Um,
no, you'll be speaking for half of the people, mate. There was a wide variety.
so um, without ever telling everyone like what we do, it's like I've got
Yeah.
lots and lots of tables, and I've got a table here for object A, and
Yep.
I really want to have the AI duplicate that entire thing for
Yep.
scenario B.
Yep.
Like it sounds fantastic, but the chasm is so big to like I wouldn't even know what to say to it to make it
Yeah.
duplicate that. How
Yeah.
like does it sound like I don't
No,
I
no,
like
it's
I put
perfectly
it for
reasonable.
example and like I don't know how I would use it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think what I had really hoped today that people would do is realize that I just have to start playing with this thing and then it will slowly make more sense. A bit like Notion formulas, mate. Like to start out it just looks like gobbledygook and then you play with it a little bit and you get feedback from it. The great thing is this thing talks back. So you never just totally get stuck like you do with Notion formulas. You will always be able to just, kind of push the conversation in a slightly different direction. But you really can get it to do all kinds of things. I had a scenario recently where I built out a pretty complex set up for someone. It had huge amounts of data in it, had like 6 or 7 years worth of data in it. And I couldn't manage to get it to duplicate because there was too much content in it. So I asked the AI, I want you to build me a clone of this. It had like 15 related databases, all this complex stuff in it. And it built a full clone, the whole thing, even had a go at the interfaces, and it was amazing. So, I mean, I spent a little bit of time and we tweaked a few things, but it was really impressive. So you can get it to do that sort of stuff. And I think you just, I mean, I know you well. We get on the journey with it because in a workspace like yours and like a bunch of people in here, there's a lot of connected information that's very hard to absorb all at once. How can you possibly see all of that information at once? You can build nice dashboards, but still they don't quite cut it. But the AI can synthesize massive amounts of information that's structured well and give you insights very, very quickly and easily and repeatably. And it's worth the pain of learning the new thing to get there.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. All right, let me show you these playbooks. I'm really happy to, if people want to come back about things to do with this template, after this, that's fine. So the playbooks, I obviously run a consulting agency. I have a million meetings, jump in a Zoom call. I'm chatting to Greg 1 minute, I'm chatting to Jacob the next. I switch from one to the next. And I love being like deep in someone's world and understanding everything that's going on for them. And then I pop out of that one and I got to go and do it in the next one. So one of the biggest challenge for me is context switching, and like even sort of remembering or being reminded, oh, where was this at? Like, what was the thing that we were working on? And so I built this little one, this little playbook called a client catch up. And its prompt, like its job, is to give me some memory triggering updates about what's going on. It can't give me a full synopsis of everything that's happened, but it could give me memory triggering updates. And so you'll see what it does. Like I literally say, catch me up on this client. So I'll pick one. I'll find a pretend one that I made. So this is not a real business, don't worry. And so I don't call it with a particular command or whatever. It's an LLM. I figure it should be able to work it out. And so you can see here it's saying the users asked me to try and find this. And sorry, the users asked me to catch something up. It looks through the playbooks because one of the rules in here is, in the playbook section, there's this, before you're doing anything, check to see if this request matches one of the playbooks. And then where were we? Here. So it pulls this client catch up, and the client catch up says, your job is to try and help him catch up. These are your inputs. So go and look in the projects and anything that's related to it. And so meetings, client engagements, tasks, time I've spent, invoices, things, documents, anything I've stored in relation to it. And I give it even a bit more context about what all those things mean so it understands them. And then I say, yeah, great, these are your steps. Look at the transcripts, like go through these things in fine detail. And again, I didn't write all this. We went back and forth and it wrote it for me. And we practiced. So the first version was rubbish. It was way too much detail and it pulled stuff from wrong places. And then we just honed it and honed it. Anyway, so there's all these rules. And then here's the outputs. This is what I want from the outputs. Got these kind of approval gates. There's probably a bit more thinking that goes into building the playbooks because the rules are quite specific about what you're asking it to do. I still actually have a real example in here. And then there's a bunch of banned moves. And then you see, this is it. So what is it? 5 paragraphs long. It gives me a high level on, it's this client. These are the key people. In the last call, you talked about this stuff. Since then, nothing's really happened. It's nearly a month ago, Tim. What are you doing? The tension is this. Those things aren't like written down specifically anywhere. It's just gathered all the context from the meeting transcripts and all of these bits and pieces that I've kept about it. And then it gives me the summary that I need. And so in this case, that just solved a real problem for me. I would spend half an hour to an hour trying to remind myself and catch up so that I could be good in the call with them. And now this jogs my memory and it takes 5 or 10 minutes, maybe not even, to quickly catch up. So, I mean, that's a nice kind of lightweight example. I have a similar thing with meetings. So I have lots of calls. I'll get out of a call with Greg and we will have covered a wide range of topics of all these things that need to happen. I loved AI summaries when they first came out because it would try and give me like a list of the tasks, and that was okay, and it was better than nothing. But I often found I still went back and listened to the call. Now I run this meeting bot, and what it does is it it knows the rest of the job. So it knows all the other meetings that we had before, right? It can read those transcripts and understand. It sees the full context of the job over time, and then it looks through this specific meeting and it pulls the tasks, it puts them in my task system, it assigns them to me. If Jay was in the call as well, it would assign the things that were meant for Jay to Jay, like it's smart enough to work those things out. If there's an actual due date, it puts a due date. It makes all the relations. It drafts a follow-up email so that I can actually go back to Greg after the call and say, hey, great chat today. These are the things that are on you. These are the things that are on me. This is where we're at. And then it creates a little client engagement for me so that I can just have a quick look at this job and see, oh yeah, this is the last thing that happened. No worries. So these are endless. Like you can just make, these are my ones, and they might be relevant to more people, but you can see here, I've got all kinds of ones. I've got ones for creating content that go really, really deep into things like voice and ICP and client needs and all of that stuff. I give it like tons of context. And then the last one I really wanted to show you is this qualify one, because I actually get this to do some real thinking for me. And this was where I sort of started to realize the potential in a new way. So when you do what I do, you regularly get requests from people. They say, hey, we need a hand with this. And it's hard to work out, can I help this person or not? Are we a good fit? And thankfully for us, we're at a point where we don't just say yes to everything. So we really try and work out, is this a good fit? And over time, Jay and I would talk about it. We realize, oh, okay, we really need to be speaking to the person who can actually make a decision about this. We really need clients who are ready to do the kind of work that we do with them. If they're not ready, it won't work. We really need them to understand what their pain points are and have a sense of what their structure is. So I knew what it meant to qualify a lead, but I either had to sit down and do all that thinking myself or just kind of make it up on the spot, and try and guess. And it was just sort of intuitive. You can't scale like that, right? So we built this, I built this qualify one where what it does is it says your job is to try and work out whether this is a good fit or not. And then if you have a look through here in the inputs and sources, I've got a rubric. So like these are the rules. This is how you judge whether someone's a good fit for us or not. And so I've got criteria like pain clarity, authority and access, urgency and timing, budget fit, workspace complexity. These were the 5 things that I knew if they scored really well in these, I would be able to help them and it would be a good fit. And if they scored poorly in those, I would have to do a whole bunch of work to try and get them to a place where I could help, or it would be a bad outcome overall. Anyway, let's have a look. So again, just, give it a hint that that's what we're looking for and it will find it. So it reads the qualified playbook, and you'll see this is one of the nice things about having AI inside of Notion is it like works with Notion. So I have a qualification database that has the scores for all those things. And so it's going to do the thinking about it, and then it's going to make some assessments. It's going to put a score in here. It's going to justify its answers. It's going to show me its thinking, and I'm going to get an outcome. And so I won't show you them because they're a whole bunch of real clients, but I have actually been doing this for every new kind of lead that comes through. And so it's, I'm building up a picture of, oh yeah, if someone scores a, 0.9, it's probably going to be a train wreck and I should help them realize that this is not the right fit for them at the start. But if someone scores a 2, then we're going to do beautiful things together, And so this is real work. This is some actual thinking, that I'm programmatically I'm able to kind of set it up to do. So I want to show you this one because of how much potential there is, because I'm sure in all your worlds there are things like that where you know what the rules are, the way to think about it, and then so this is all output from the AI. You can see it's still working over here, but it's done the first pass and now it's finished. And so it gives us a summary, it tells us the risks. And so it's got most of this content from the transcriptions from the calls, but it's also got it from, I think in this fun example I made, yeah, we filled out this pain point dreaming kind of tool that I use, where they've said, this is the problem and this is what happens. So it takes all the context that it understands. I didn't even tell it where it was. It knows where it is. It knows it's connected to the client. So I'll go and look in all those places and get it. And then these are the risks. These are the notes. These are the next steps. Here's all the scores and why we gave those scores. Super useful. All right, it's 2 minutes to 2 and I just did a lot of talking. Any questions or thoughts about any of that?
Can I have a question?
Please.
Um, First of all, thank you. Hello from Canada. Um,
Oh,
um, my question is for, I think I missed one point from the template that we have that we duplicated to this one.
mhm.
Obviously, this is more complex and like it needs more relations, but I wanted to understand better that like if I use this template and if I wanted to build something like this,
Yep.
like what are the baby steps that I can take?
Yeah. Yeah. So as a part of the sort of default or in templated instructions that I gave you, there's a section in there called workflow playbooks. And so I guess the structure is there for your AI to go looking for these things. And so in that section, I would create these different playbooks. And so I might actually, I'll find a way to send you guys an example of one, but you need to create this separate page that has the full instructions for what that workflow is and how that should look. Yeah. I saw a question from Dan about how to manage the agents across the teams. I think it's a really interesting one. I've thought about it a little bit. I'm interested to try it out in practice if anyone wants to be a guinea pig. Um, I think there's some base level instructions that you would want to share across a team. Some things about, hey, this is how the workspace works or whatever, that I imagine we would be able to do things like synced blocks with, or at worst, just pointing it to say the data map lives here in the base instructions. And then some areas that you want to be able to personalize. So you might say on the team, hey, here's the base template. It's got the company operational principles. It's got the company rules. It's got the company data map, and then you get to specify personality and two other operational rules, something like that. I can see that working. Notion would lend itself to it really well. And one thing that you will have noticed that I have done heaps of is this. So most of the content is living here on the page, but this rubric is actually a doc that lives in a database somewhere else, and I just point it to it. So one of my clients, they have a prompts database, and then they've got AI blocks spread out in the workspace that reference those prompts so that they can have them in a template and they can change the core prompt. They don't have to go in and change it in every single page or every single template. So I think that's quite a good model, a central database. They can manage it. They can even change the permissions on it so that no one can break them. It's probably a good way to think about it.
Can I ask Tim, just following
Yep.
on that from that lady, I forgot her name.
Yep.
Just building on what that, like, if we've got, like, I would love to send a customized email to all my clients based on,
Yep.
so let's say I've got 5 clients and I have Mr. Apple, Mr. Banana, Mr. Carrot, and I want to send him an email based on what I put into that in the notes into
Yeah.
Notion.
It's a good question. I understand where you're going with it.
But then I need to get it out of Notion, sent to
Yep.
them. How do I do that?
Yeah, so there's two ways that we might end up solving this. Both are still kind of in the works. One is that one of the things Notion sort of foreshadowed at the Make with Notion conference was a Notion Mail AI connector. So from inside here, you can say draft an email to this person and send it, and send it from here, or and read email from here. So that layer of email integration that we've often been looking for. I just want to acknowledge that it's after 2. Thank you for coming. If you need to go, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll just stick around for a few minutes. The other way is the custom agents that are coming, where you can set up rules to say, in this condition. So, when a rent review is due, and it passes the date, I would like you to put this email together and grab this piece of information from this database, like the tenant's name and their email address. And so the connected web that we've been building will, suddenly become 10 times more useful as you're able to automate those kinds of things. It's
Awesome.
pretty
Thank you.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, have you seen any of the custom agent functionality? I know you get a bit of an early view to some things that you can talk to about what you think is actually coming in that functionality.
No, I signed a form this morning to try and get a look at one.
Norman.
So, yeah, Nick's in the chat too. We've both been desperate to play with it. Look, I think, to be fair, the most likely scenario is like with all of these things that it'll be limited in ways that we wish it wasn't to begin with, but it will do things that we, sort of are pretty excited about to start with, and then it will grow over time. No doubt, if I was Notion running the servers and whatever, I'd be thinking about load of people saying, "Hey, do all this AI stuff while I'm asleep." When anything happens in my workspace. So that stuff will be challenging to manage, I assume. But yeah, the Make with Notion recordings. I don't know if you saw any of the launch, but they did demo some stuff. So there's little bits and pieces.
It was very limited. I thought you might have a deeper view that was.
In the next couple of weeks, but I won't be allowed to talk about it. So yeah, it's exciting. Good time to be alive.
Tim, I just had a super quick question. I experimented based on like a YouTube video, kind of doing like different modes for the agent,
Oh yeah.
similar to the playbooks. But
Yep.
I really it really struggled with identifying when to pick them
Right.
and kind of when to step in. I was wondering if you
Mm.
had similar challenges and if you solved that in a particular way.
I did it first, and then
Was it just kind of trial and error, telling it, why did you pick that? Why didn't you do that?
yeah, and then I ended up putting this very simple instruction in here. Well, it put the instruction in there when I was cracking it, saying, "Why are you picking the wrong thing all the time?" And it literally says use natural language matching. He won't use exact trigger phrases. And
Okay.
I think that's been enough that I've said, "Oh, I want to write a post about this." And then it goes, "Cool, I'm going to add something to the content planner and, I'm using this and who's the audience, and ask me, it runs." So yeah, I think that's going to be a process of experimenting and talking to the AI about why did you get that wrong? What could I have done differently? What instruction, like you
Yeah,
get good at asking those kinds of questions to it about what it needs because it's the expert on what it needs.
totally. Okay, that's cool. I'll give that a go.
Mm, cool. Great. Thanks, everyone. That was fun. I hope that sets you off down the rabbit warren and you spend, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're still playing with an agent thinking, damn it, I've got a meeting in the morning. And yeah, I'm really keen to just keep conversation going. A bunch of you I get to see all the time, but for those of you I don't, let's just keep working it out because it's all a big creative process that we're all learning. And it's a lot of fun. Great. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.